The annual Galactic Trade Federation Summit was supposed to be boring. Ambassador Wu Jin knew this as he walked through the busy corridors of Harmony Point Station. He had attended these meetings for 10 years now, and they were always the same. The big alien races would talk about trade routes and mining rights, while the smaller species like humans sat quietly in the back. Wu Jin adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform and checked his watch. The opening ceremony would start in 2 hours. Around him, aliens of all shapes and sizes moved through the station's wide hallways. The crystalline vortex clicked and chimed as they walked, their bodies catching the light like living diamonds. The gaseous colony floated in their environmental suits, moving like colorful clouds. The insect-like Nexari skittered along the walls in perfect formation. Thinking with one shared mind, humans were still new to all this. 50 years in the Galactic Federation sounded like a long time, but it was nothing compared to the thousands of years these other species had been traveling between stars. Most aliens still saw humans as the young species that barely understood space travel. That was about to change. Crystal Singer Thex was having a typical day at the traffic control center. His crystalline form resonated with boredom as he processed the usual stream of arriving ships. Diplomatic vessels, trade freighters, and escort fighters all needed clearance to dock at Harmony Point. After 3 centuries of doing this job, Thex could handle the traffic without really paying attention. His sensors chimed with another arrival request. The ID tag read Human Diplomatic Vessel, and Thex barely glanced at his screens. Humans always brought small ships to these summits, usually some tiny frigate that could barely carry 20 people. He sent back the standard response, assigning them to Docking Bay 7 with all the other minor species. Then his alarm systems started screaming. Thex's crystalline body flashed bright red with shock as he actually looked at his sensor readings. The ship dropping out of hyperspace was not small. It was not tiny. It was the largest vessel he had ever seen in his 300 years of traffic control. The human ship stretched over a kilometer from front to back. Its hull was dark gray metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Angular sections jutted out at different points, giving it a look that was both elegant and threatening. Weapon ports dotted its surface like stars in the night sky. The ship's engines glowed with a blue light that made Thex's sensors struggle to get accurate readings. Harmony Point Control to human vessel, Thex transmitted, his voice cracking with static from his excitement. Please confirm your ship classification. The response came back calm and professional. Harmony Point Control, this is HSS Determination, Colossus-Class exploration vessel. Requesting permission to dock as previously arranged. Colossus-Class. Thex had never heard of such a classification. His database showed no records of human ships larger than light cruisers. Yet here was something that made the station's defensive platforms look like children's toys. All across Harmony Point, military officers were running to sensor stations. The Vorthec Defense Coordinator's crystalline form was flashing panic colors as she tried to understand what her instruments were telling her. The Kelani Fleet Commander had inflated his gas body to maximum size, a sure sign of extreme stress. Even the normally calm Nexari collective was buzzing with confused chatter from their linked minds. Captain Boara stood on the bridge of the Determination, watching the station grow larger on her main screen. She could see the small shapes of defensive platforms moving to track her ship. Their weapons were pathetic compared to what the Determination carried, but she appreciated that they were being cautious. "Captain," called her communications officer, "Station Control is requesting confirmation of our ship specs. Tell them we're here for the diplomatic summit as arranged, nothing more." Biora smiled slightly. The galaxy was about to get its first real look at what humans had been building while everyone thought they were still playing with simple spacecraft. The Determination was indeed one of their smaller ships. Biora could have brought the new Titan-class vessel that was finishing construction back in the Sol system, but that might have caused actual panic. The Colossus-Class was impressive enough to make their point without starting a war. Docking. "Bay 7 is too small for us," reported the navigation officer. "We'll need Bays 7, 8, and 9 to fit." Request the additional space, or ordered. And remember, everyone acts like this is completely normal. On the station, beings from dozens of species pressed against viewing ports to stare at the massive human ship. Many had never seen anything so large that wasn't a space station or asteroid base. Some of the older aliens remembered stories of ancient warships from the great conflicts thousands of years ago. But even those legendary vessels seemed small compared to this human creation. Ambassador Wu Jin received the message from the Determination. Just as he was entering the main conference hall, Captain Biora's ship had arrived and would be docking shortly. He had seen the preliminary designs for the Colossus-Class ships, but had never witnessed one in person. The photos and technical drawings hadn't prepared him for the reality. Through the massive, transparent steel windows of the conference hall, Wu Jin could see the Determination settling into position at the docking complex. The ship was so large that it blocked the view of several other docked vessels. Aliens throughout the hall had stopped their conversations to stare out the windows. General Huan of the Vorthek military delegation was standing near one of the windows, his crystalline body flickering with rapid color changes that indicated intense thought. The Vorthak had ruled much of the galaxy for thousands of years through superior technology and military might. Their crystal-based weapons and armor were considered the finest in known space. Yet the human ship's hull didn't look like anything in the Vorthek databases. The metal seemed to drink in the light from the station's external lamps. Sensor scans were giving readings that made no sense. The ship's energy output was higher than some small stars. How is this possible? Huan transmitted to his aide. 50 years ago, humans barely had fusion drives. Now they build this? His aide's response was equally confused. Our intelligence reports show no indication that humans possessed such capabilities. Their largest known vessels were rated at less than 1/10 this size. Consortium leader Vel 9 of the Kelani was having similar thoughts. His people controlled the fastest ships in the galaxy, built for speed and maneuverability. The Kelani had maintained their position in galactic politics by being able to travel between systems faster than anyone else, but the drive signature from the human ship suggested capabilities that made Kelani vessels look like they were standing. Still, the energy readings indicated a propulsion system unlike anything in the galactic databases. Could our analysts have been wrong about human technology? Vel 9 asked his science officer. All our reports indicated they were decades behind us in drive technology. This vessel suggests we may have been seriously mistaken. The Nexari collective was experiencing something they rarely felt: uncertainty. Their million-linked minds usually could analyze and understand any new technology within hours. But the human ship was designed according to principles that seemed completely alien to their way of thinking. Their biological ships grew rather than being built. They adapted and evolved, changing their capabilities based on need. The human vessel looked like it had been carved from a single piece of metal and equipped for every possible situation at once. Captain Biora and a small group of human officers took a shuttle from the Determination to the station. As they walked through the docking bay, every alien they passed stopped to stare. Some had never seen humans before. Others were trying to reconcile the small, seemingly fragile beings with the massive warship they had arrived in. Biora acted as if nothing unusual was happening. She greeted the station officials politely, submitted the required documentation, and made small talk about the journey from Earth. When asked about her ship, she simply mentioned it was one of their newer exploration models. The Vorthak docking supervisor's crystalline body nearly shattered from shock when he heard this casual description. If this monster was just an exploration ship, what did human warships look like? As word spread throughout Harmony Point Station, emergency meetings began forming in secret. Military commanders, intelligence officers, and political leaders from every major species were trying to understand what they had just witnessed. The humans had kept their true capabilities hidden for 50 years. They had attended summit after summit, sitting quietly while the established powers made decisions about galactic policy. All the while, they had been building ships that made the galaxy's greatest fleets look primitive. Ambassador Wu Jin entered. the main conference hall and took his usual seat in the section reserved for minor species. Around him, aliens whispered and chattered in dozens of languages, all discussing the same thing. The massive human ship now docked at their station. The opening ceremony was supposed to begin in an hour, but Wu Jin suspected it would be delayed. The galaxy's power structure had just shifted, and nobody quite understood what that meant yet. Outside the windows, the Determination sat quietly at its dock, its hull gleaming darkly in the station's lights. Inside that ship were technologies and capabilities that would reshape how every species thought about space travel, warfare, and their place in the galaxy. The age of human exploration was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. General Wan had not slept in 36 hours. His crystalline body flickered with stress patterns as he stared at the data streaming across his command center's displays. The emergency session of the Vorthok High Command had been going on since. The human ship arrived at Harmony Point, and every new piece of information made their situation look worse. "The armor plating alone defies our understanding," reported his chief analyst, her crystal form pulsing with confused colors. "Our best weapons would barely scratch that hull. The energy readings suggest they have power generation systems that rival our largest space stations." Juan's body flashed deep red with anger and fear. For 3,000 years, the Vorthok Empire had maintained galactic dominance through superior crystal technology. Their weapons could slice through any known material. Their shields could stop any enemy attack. Their war forms were unstoppable forces that had crushed every rebellion and invasion. Now, a single human ship had made all of that meaningless. "What about their weapons?" Juan asked, though he dreaded the answer. "We count at least 200 weapon ports of various sizes. The energy signatures don't match anything in our databases. They could be projectile weapons, energy beams, or something completely new. Without direct testing, we have no way to know their capabilities." The worst part was how casually the humans were acting. Captain Bio-Ra had walked through the station like she was carrying a simple trade vessel, not a ship that could probably destroy half the galaxy's fleets single-handed. When asked about the Determination's specifications, she had simply smiled and mentioned it was one of their exploration models. If this was what humans used to explore space, what did their actual warships look like? 3 systems away, on the gas giant Kelros, Consortium leader Vel9 was facing his own crisis. The Kelani had built their entire civilization around being the fastest species in the galaxy. Their ships could cross between star systems in days while other races took weeks. This speed advantage had made them the galaxy's premier traders and information brokers. The human ship's drive signature had destroyed that advantage overnight. "Show me the analysis again," Vel9 demanded, his gaseous body swirling with anxiety. His science team had been running calculations since the first sensor readings came in from Harmony Point. The energy output from their engines suggests they can achieve hyperspace velocities at least 3 times faster than our best ships, his head scientist reported. But that's not the concerning part. The power systems appear to be designed for sustained operation at these speeds. They could maintain maximum velocity for weeks or months without stopping. Vel9's form contracted with shock. Kelani ships could only maintain top speed for a few days before their biological systems needed rest and recovery. If humans could travel at 3 times their speed for unlimited periods, the Kelani transportation network would become obsolete within years. "What about manufacturing?" Vel9 asked. "How many of these ships do they have?" "Unknown. Intelligence reports from the past 50 years show no indication that humans possessed such capabilities. Either they developed this technology very recently, or they have been hiding their true abilities for decades." The thought that humans had been pretending to be a minor species while secretly building a fleet of superships was terrifying. It suggested a level of long-term planning and deception that none of the galaxy's powers had considered possible. In the vast living ships of the Nexari Collective, trillions of minds were experiencing something unprecedented. The collective had never encountered a problem they could not solve through shared consciousness and biological adaptation. Their ships grew rather than being built, adapting to new challenges by evolving new capabilities, but the human approach was completely alien to their way of thinking. The vessel shows no biological components, transmitted the collective's chief science mind. It appears to be constructed entirely of manufactured materials, yet its capabilities exceed our finest grown ships. The collective struggled to understand how this was possible. Their biological technology could adapt and evolve, growing new weapons or defenses as needed. But it took time for these changes to occur, sometimes years for major adaptations. The human ship appeared to be designed for every possible situation at once. Rather than adapting to threats, they had simply built their vessel to handle anything they might encounter. The concept was wasteful and inefficient by Nexari standards, yet undeniably effective. How do they power such systems without biological efficiency? Asked another mind in the network, unknown. Their power generation methods do not match any known technology. The energy output suggests they may have developed fusion systems beyond our current understanding. Back on Harmony Point, Captain Bio-Ra was enjoying her morning coffee in the station's diplomatic quarter. Through her quarter's window, she could see aliens gathering near viewing areas to stare at the determination. Some had been there for hours, trying to understand what they were looking at. Her communication device chimed with an incoming message from Admiral Hyun-woo back on Earth. Baor accepted the secure transmission and smiled at her superior's image. "I take it the galaxy noticed your arrival," Admiral Hyun-woo said with amusement. "They seem a bit surprised by the determination," Bio-Ra replied. "I've had 17 different species request private meetings to discuss technological cooperation. 3 have offered formal alliance proposals. Any hostile reactions? Not yet. I think they're too shocked to be aggressive. The Vorthek military has been running sensor sweeps on us every few hours, but they're keeping their distance." Admiral Hyun-woo nodded. "Good, remember, we're not here to intimidate anyone. We just want them to understand that humanity is ready to take a more active role in galactic affairs." Bio-Ra looked out at the aliens still gathered around the viewing areas. "I think the message is getting through. Ambassador Wu Jin says the summit schedule has been completely disrupted. Everyone wants to know what other surprises humanity has been hiding." "Speaking of surprises," Admiral Hyun-woo smiled, "construction on the first Titan-class vessel is ahead of schedule. We should have it completed within 6 months." Bio-Ra nearly choked on her coffee. The Titan-class ships were 3 times larger than the Determination, designed for deep space colonization missions. If the galaxy was shocked by her ship, seeing a Titan would probably cause actual panic. "Maybe we should wait a few years before revealing that one," she suggested. "Perhaps. But the colonial administration is eager to begin expansion into the Outer Rim territories. We'll need the Titans if we want to establish permanent settlements beyond known space." After ending the call, Bio-Ra returned to watching the aliens outside her window. They reminded her of children seeing their first spaceship, full of wonder and confusion. The galaxy had become comfortable with the established order, with humans playing the role of the quiet junior species that followed. Everyone else's lead. That comfortable order was about to change dramatically. In the diplomatic quarters reserved for the Vorthik delegation, General Wan was meeting with representatives from the other major powers. The crystalline conference room had been hastily arranged for emergency discussions between species that rarely cooperated. "We need to share information," Wan transmitted to the assembled group. "Humanity has clearly been hiding their true capabilities. We must determine the extent of their technological advancement." Consortium leader Vel9's gaseous form swirled with agreement. "My people have monitored human space for decades. We saw no indication of such advanced manufacturing capabilities. Either they developed this technology very recently, or their security is far better than we realized." The Nixari representative, speaking for billions of linked minds, offered their own analysis. "The collective has reviewed all available data on human technology development. Their progression appears to have been steady but unremarkable until approximately 10 years ago. Then their advancement rate increased dramatically. What changed 10 years ago? Juan asked. Unknown. Human space is difficult to monitor due to their preference for encrypted communications and closed borders. They may have made a breakthrough in material science or power generation that enabled rapid technological development. Vel9's form. Compressed with concern. Or they may have had these capabilities all along and simply chose not to reveal them until now. The thought was disturbing. If humans had been pretending to be technologically inferior while secretly building advanced warships, it suggested a level of strategic thinking that none of the galaxy's established powers had anticipated. What are our options? Juan asked the group. Accommodation, the Nexari representative replied immediately. The collective calculates that direct conflict with humanity would result in unacceptable losses, possibly including the complete destruction of our civilizations. Vel9's gaseous body rippled with reluctant agreement. My people's survival depends on maintaining our position as the galaxy's primary traders and transporters. If human ships can move faster and carry more cargo than ours, we must find ways to cooperate rather than compete. General Juan's crystalline form flickered through several color patterns as he considered their options. The Vorthic Empire had never faced a situation where their military superiority was in question. Their entire social structure was built around the concept of strength through crystal technology. Perhaps, Juan transmitted carefully, we should consider that humanity's emergence might benefit all of us. Their technology could solve problems that have limited galactic civilization for millennia. It was a radical thought for a Vorthic military commander, but the alternative was potentially catastrophic. If humanity chose to use their technological advantages aggressively, the galaxy's current power structure would collapse within years. Better to find ways to work with the new reality than to fight against it and lose everything outside the conference. Room windows, the Determination sat quietly at its dock, its dark hull reflecting the station's lights. Inside that ship were technologies that could reshape the galaxy's understanding of what was possible. The age of human dominance was beginning, and the galaxy's established powers were starting to realize they had only two choices: adapt or become irrelevant. The emergency meetings would continue for days, but the outcome was already becoming clear. Humanity had announced their presence in a way that could not be ignored. The galaxy would never be the same. Dr. Suho adjusted the holographic projector in the station's main conference hall and smiled at the audience of alien scientists gathered before him. Representatives from dozens of species had requested this technical presentation, supposedly to learn about human engineering methods. In reality, he knew they were here to gather intelligence about humanity's sudden technological leap. He didn't mind. The galaxy was about to learn that human engineering wasn't just advanced, it was completely different from anything they had ever seen. Thank you all for attending, Dr. Sungho began, his voice calm and professional. Today I'll be discussing the basic design principles behind our Colossus-Class vessels, using the HSS Determination as our primary example. The holographic display activated, showing a detailed cutaway view of the massive human ship. Gasps and clicks of surprise came from various parts of the audience as they saw the vessel's internal structure for the first time. The ship wasn't just big, it was impossibly complex. Where most galactic vessels had simple layouts with dedicated areas for engines, weapons, and crew quarters, the Determination looked like a floating city. Multiple decks stretched throughout the hull, connected by transport tubes and emergency passages. Manufacturing areas sat next to research laboratories. Weapon systems were integrated with defensive shields and repair facilities. The first thing you'll notice, Dr. Sung-ho continued, is that we don't design ships for single purposes. The Determination is simultaneously an exploration vessel, a research station, a manufacturing facility, and a defensive platform. A Vorthic scientist's crystalline body flashed with confusion colors. How do you manage the power requirements for so many different systems? Dr. Suho touched a control, and the hologram zoomed in on the ship's power core. We use a distributed fusion system with 17 independent reactors. Each section of the ship can operate on its own power supply, and we can reroute energy as needed for different operations. The alien scientists began murmuring among themselves. Most galactic ships use single power sources, which made them efficient but vulnerable. If the main reactor was damaged, the entire vessel would lose power. The human approach was wasteful by galactic standards, but incredibly resilient. "This seems unnecessarily complex," observed a Kelani engineer, her gaseous form rippling with skepticism. "Why not optimize for efficiency instead of redundancy?" "Because efficiency assumes everything will work perfectly," Dr. Sung-ho replied. "We design for situations where things go wrong. What happens if your main reactor fails during combat? What if you lose your primary weapon systems? What if half your crew is injured and you need to operate with reduced personnel?" He touched another control, and the hologram showed the ship's manufacturing sections. The aliens in the audience fell silent as they realized what they were seeing. Each Colossus-Class vessel carries complete manufacturing capabilities, Dr. Sung-ho explained. "We can process raw materials from asteroids or damaged ships into advanced components. Our fabrication systems can produce everything from computer processors to new hull plating." Engineer Taeho stepped forward to assist with the presentation. "We also carry full biological support systems, hydroponic gardens for food production, water recycling plants, and atmospheric processors. A Colossus-class ship can operate independently for years without resupply." The implications were staggering. Most galactic vessels needed to return to bases or stations regularly for maintenance, supplies, and repairs. The human ships were completely self-sufficient, able to repair themselves, feed their crews, and even manufacture new equipment while deep in space. "How long does it take to build such a vessel?" asked the Nexari representative, speaking for the collective consciousness of trillions of minds. Dr. Sung-ho smiled. "The determination took 8 months from start to finish." The conference hall erupted in shocked chatter. "Even the fastest galactic shipyards took years to produce vessels. A fraction of the determination's size. The Nexari grew their biological ships over decades. The Vorthek crystal ships required centuries of careful cultivation." "That's impossible," transmitted General Huan, his crystalline form flashing disbelief colors. "Our most advanced construction facilities take minimum 5 years to produce a heavy cruiser. We use automated manufacturing systems," Engineer Taeho explained. "Once we design a ship class, we can produce multiple copies simultaneously. Our lunar shipyards are currently building 12 more Colossus-class vessels." The alien scientists were beginning to understand the true scope of what they were facing. Humanity hadn't just built one super ship, they were mass-producing them. Within a few years, human space could contain dozens or even hundreds of these massive vessels. "What about larger ship classes?" asked a brave Kelani scientist, though her gaseous form was already contracting with fear at the potential answer. Dr. Sung-ho exchanged a glance with his colleague. "The Colossus-class represents our standard exploration and diplomatic platform. We have larger vessels under development for specialized purposes." He activated a new holographic display showing the basic outline of a much larger ship, the Titan class. Vessels are designed for deep space colonization. They're approximately 3 times the size of the Determination and can carry up to 50,000 colonists, along with everything needed to establish permanent settlements. The alien scientists stared at the massive hologram in stunned silence. The Titan-class ships were larger than most space stations, mobile cities capable of crossing the galaxy and establishing new civilizations wherever they stopped. "How many of these are you building?" whispered a Vorthek engineer, her crystal body barely glowing with shock. "The Colonial Administration has authorized construction of 20 Titan-class vessels for the initial expansion phase," Dr. Sung-ho replied casually. "We expect to have the first one operational within 6 months. Consortium leader Vel 9, who had been quietly observing the presentation, finally spoke up. "What is your ultimate goal? Why build such massive fleets?" Dr. Sung-ho looked genuinely surprised by the question. Exploration, of course. "The galaxy is vast and we've barely begun to see what's out there. These ships will allow us to establish permanent research stations in unexplored regions, study new phenomena, and perhaps make contact with civilizations beyond current galactic borders. The humans' casual mention of expanding beyond known galactic boundaries sent another wave of shock through the audience. Most species were content to operate within established trade routes and explored systems. The idea of pushing into completely unknown regions of space was both terrifying and exciting. A Nexari scientist raised a mechanical appendage. Your manufacturing capabilities suggest you could produce massive military fleets. Are you planning to establish human dominance over the galaxy? Dr. Sung-ho shook his head. Military conquest isn't efficient. It's much easier to trade and cooperate with other species than to fight them. Our ships are heavily armed because space is dangerous, not because we want to attack anyone. Engineer Teho activated another display showing the determinations. Defensive systems. Every system has multiple backups because we've learned that the universe tries to kill you in creative ways. Solar flares, meteor swarms, equipment failures, hostile wildlife, and yes, occasionally aggressive aliens. We prepare for all possibilities. The presentation continued for another hour, with Dr. Sung-ho calmly explaining systems that revolutionize galactic engineering theory. Self-repairing hull materials that could seal breaches automatically, artificial intelligence systems that could optimize ship operations in real time, weapons that could be reconfigured for different types of threats. Most shocking of all was the human attitude toward their achievements. Dr. Sung-ho presented each revolutionary technology as if it were a simple engineering solution to obvious problems. When asked about breakthrough discoveries, he mentioned them as routine developments from their research programs. How long have you been developing these technologies? Asked General Huan. Most of the basic concepts are 50 years old, Doctor. Sung-ho replied. We've just been refining and improving them. The real breakthrough came when we figured out how to integrate all our systems into a single platform. The alien scientists were beginning to realize that humanity hadn't suddenly developed advanced technology. They had been working on it steadily. For decades, building on previous discoveries and constantly improving their designs. While the galaxy's established powers had grown comfortable with their existing capabilities, humans had never stopped innovating. What comes next? Asked the Kelani engineer. What are your plans for the future? Dr. Sung-ho smiled. We're always working on improvements. The Sovereign-class vessels currently in design phase will be mobile star bases capable of supporting millions of people. We're also developing new propulsion systems that should allow faster-than-light travel without hyperspace limitations. The conference hall fell completely silent. Faster-than-light travel without hyperspace would eliminate the galaxy's dependence on established jump routes and navigation beacons. Ships could travel directly between any 2 points in the galaxy, opening up exploration possibilities that had never been considered. As the presentation ended, and the alien scientists filed out of the hall, they carried with them the sobering realization that humanity's emergence was not a temporary disruption. It was the beginning of a new era in galactic civilization. The humans weren't just more advanced, they thought differently about engineering and exploration. Where other species had reached comfortable plateaus in their technological development, humans continued, pushing boundaries and solving problems that others had never considered solvable. Dr. Sung-ho and Engineer Teho remained in the conference hall, reviewing their presentation notes. Around them, the massive holographic displays still showed the detailed schematics of human vessels. Do you think we overwhelmed them? Teho asked. Dr. Sung-ho chuckled. Probably. But they needed to understand what they're dealing with. The galaxy is about to change dramatically and they'll need time to adapt. Outside the conference hall windows, the Determination sat quietly at its dock, no longer mysterious but somehow even more impressive now that its capabilities were partially understood. The ship represented not just advanced technology, but a completely different philosophy of engineering and exploration. The galaxy's species were beginning to realize. They had two choices: learn to work with humanity's new capabilities or be left behind as the humans expanded into regions of space that others could never reach. The age of human exploration was beginning, and the galaxy would have to adapt to survive. The Red Nebula Reapers had terrorized the Harmony Point sector for 15 years. Their 50-ship fleet was a nightmare made of stolen vessels, modified freighters, and captured military craft welded together into floating weapons platforms. Captain Kael'ra, their leader, had chosen this moment to attack because the diplomatic summit meant rich targets and minimal defenses. He had not counted on the massive human ship docked at the station. All ships begin attack formation, Kael'ra transmitted to his fleet as they dropped out of hyperspace. Hit the station's power grid first, then board and take hostages. Those diplomatic fools will pay handsomely for their lives. The pirate fleet spread out in their practiced assault pattern, 50 ships moving like hungry predators toward Harmony Point, their weapons powered up, ready to cripple the stations. Defenses in the first strike, on the bridge of the HSS Determination. Commander Jiwoo watched the approaching pirate fleet with calm interest. The ship's sensors had detected the incoming vessels long before they appeared on the station's warning. Systems, Captain Bo-Ra to the bridge, Jiwoo called over the ship's communication system. We have incoming hostiles. Captain Bo-Ra arrived within minutes, still carrying the coffee she had been drinking in her quarters. She looked at the tactical display showing the approaching pirates and sighed. How many ships? 50 confirmed hostiles, various classes. Mixed weapon types, mostly projectile and basic energy weapons. They appeared to be targeting the station's power systems. Bo-Ra nodded and settled into her command chair. Standard defensive protocols. Try to disable rather than destroy. We want prisoners for interrogation? Commander Jiwoo's fingers moved across his control panel, activating the Determination's defensive systems. Throughout the massive ship, automated systems came online with quiet efficiency. Weapon ports opened along the hull. Shield generators hummed to life. Point defense systems swiveled to track incoming threats. The pirates' first wave of missiles streaked toward Harmony Point Station, aiming for the main power reactors. They never made it. The Determination's point defense grid lit up like a constellation of deadly stars. Hundreds of small weapons tracked and eliminated each incoming missile with precision that seemed impossible. Every projectile was intercepted. Creating a wall of explosions between the pirates and their target, Captain Kael'ra stared at his displays in confusion. What just happened? Where did our missiles go? His weapons officer's voice cracked with fear. They were all destroyed, sir. Something shot down every single missile before they could reach the station. That's impossible. We fired 200 missiles in that salvo. The human ship, sir, it's doing something. Kael'ra turned his attention to the massive vessel docked at Harmony Point. He had noticed it earlier but dismissed it as some kind of cargo hauler or colony ship. Now, he could see weapon ports opening along its hull like the eyes of some great beast waking up. All ships, concentrate fire on that big vessel, he ordered. It's just one ship against 50 of ours. The pirate fleet turned toward the Determination, bringing their full firepower to bear. Energy beams, projectile weapons, and explosive charges streaked toward the human ship in a devastating barrage that should have crippled any vessel in the galaxy. The attacks hit the Determination's shields and simply disappeared. The energy barriers around the human ship glowed briefly, then returned to their normal invisible state. Not a single weapon had managed to penetrate the defensive screen. Commander Jiwoo checked his status displays. Shield strength at 98%. Minor fluctuations from the energy weapons, but nothing significant. Captain Bo-Ra took another sip of her coffee. Return fire? Disable their engines and weapons? Try to keep the crews alive. What happened next redefined galactic warfare. Doctrine. The Determination's weapon systems activated with surgical precision. Instead of the massive destructive beams that most galactic warships used, the human ship fired targeted pulses that struck exactly where they were intended. Engine systems on pirate ships shut down instantly. Weapon arrays went offline without damaging the surrounding hull. Communication arrays were disabled with shots so precise they severed specific components while leaving the rest of the systems intact. In less than 3 minutes. 30 of the 50 pirate ships were floating helplessly in space, their crews alive but their vessels completely disabled. Captain Kael'ra watched his fleet being systematically destroyed by a single enemy ship that was barely fighting back. How are they doing this? Our sensors show they're not even using full power. His science officer's voice shook with fear. Sir, their weapon systems are operating at approximately 10% capacity. They're treating this like a training exercise. The remaining 20 pirate ships tried to retreat, but the determination was faster. The massive human vessel moved with impossible grace for something its size, positioning itself to cut off escape routes while continuing to disable fleeing ships. But the most shocking moment came when the human ship began deploying what Captain Biora called recovery drones. Hundreds of small craft emerged from the Determination's hull, each one equipped with salvage equipment and tractor beams. The drones swarmed over the disabled pirate ships, beginning the process of breaking them down into component materials. What are they doing to our ships? Kael'ra screamed into his communicator. Commander Jiwoo answered him on an open channel. Salvage operations. Your vessels will be processed into useful materials. Your crews will be transferred to our holding facilities for questioning. The pirates watched in horror as their ships were systematically disassembled by the human drones. Hull plating was cut away and sorted by material type. Engines were removed and broken down into individual components. Weapon systems were carefully extracted and analyzed. Within an hour, the entire Red Nebula Reaper fleet had been converted into neat piles of sorted materials floating in space. The human drones worked with mechanical efficiency, turning what had been 50 threatening warships into raw resources for the Determination's manufacturing systems. Captain Kael'ra and his surviving crew members found themselves in the Determination's detention facilities, clean and well-lit cells that were more comfortable than most of their ship quarters had been. Human guards provided medical attention for injured pirates and served meals that were better than anything they had eaten in years. I don't understand, Kael'ra muttered to his cellmate. Why didn't they just kill us? A human guard overheard the question and paused at their cell. Because dead pirates don't provide information about other criminal organizations. You'll be questioned about your operations, then turned over to galactic authorities for trial. But you destroyed our entire fleet in minutes. Why take prisoners at all? The guard looked genuinely puzzled by the question. Because you're sentient beings. We don't kill people unless we absolutely have to. Destroying your ships was necessary. To stop your attack. Killing your crews would have been wasteful. Back on Harmony Point Station, the diplomatic community was in complete shock. They had just witnessed a single human ship defeat a pirate fleet that had terrorized the sector for years. And they had done it without breaking a sweat. Admiral Hyan-Woo, who had been observing the battle from the station's command center, was surrounded by alien military officers asking desperate questions. How did they target individual systems so precisely? Demanded General Huan. Our targeting computers can identify and track thousands of separate components simultaneously, Admiral Hyan-Woo replied calmly. We prefer to disable rather than destroy when possible. Their weapons barely seemed to warm up during the engagement. Observed Consortium Leader Vel-9. The Determination's weapon systems are designed for much larger threats. A pirate fleet doesn't require our full capabilities. The most disturbing question came from the Nexari representative. What would constitute a threat that would require your full capabilities? Admiral Hyan-Woo considered the question seriously. Hostile alien fleets with advanced technology. Natural disasters like solar flares or asteroid swarms. Perhaps a rogue artificial intelligence with access to military systems. The Determination is built to handle worst-case scenarios. The alien officers exchanged worried glances. If the human ship had just defeated 50 enemy vessels while barely using its weapons, what could it do at full power? Captain Bio-Ra returned to the station after the battle, acting as if nothing unusual had happened. When asked about the engagement, she mentioned it had been useful field testing for their defensive systems. Field testing? General Juan's crystalline body flashed with disbelief. You just eliminated an entire pirate fleet. The Red Nebula Reapers were a minor threat, Bio-Ra replied. Our weapons performed within expected parameters. The point defense grid worked perfectly, and the salvage drones exceeded recovery time. Estimates. What would you consider a major threat? Captain Bio-Ra thought for a moment. A coordinated attack by multiple galactic fleets using advanced weaponry. Hostile aliens with technology comparable to ours. Perhaps a natural disaster requiring evacuation of entire star systems. The implications were staggering. The human captain was suggesting that the combined military might of all galactic civilizations would be considered only a moderate threat to her ship. As news of the battle spread throughout the galaxy, military commanders and political leaders began emergency reassessments of their strategic positions. The humans had demonstrated capabilities that made every existing fleet obsolete, but more importantly, they had shown their approach to warfare. They preferred to disable rather than destroy, to capture rather than kill. They fought with overwhelming technological superiority, but used that advantage with restraint. The galaxy was beginning to understand that humanity's emergence wasn't just about superior technology. It was about a completely different philosophy of conflict resolution. They could destroy any enemy fleet in the galaxy, but they chose to solve problems through minimum necessary force and strategic thinking. The age of galactic warfare was ending, replaced by something entirely new. Humanity had shown they could enforce peace through overwhelming defensive capability rather than aggressive conquest. The Red Nebula Reaper's defeat marked the end of an era. Pirates and raiders across the galaxy began surrendering to authorities rather than risk encountering human ships. The mere possibility of facing technology like the Determinations was enough to end criminal careers that had lasted decades. In the detention facilities of the human ship, Captain Kael'ra stared out through the transparent aluminum windows at the salvage operations still in progress. His life's work was being systematically converted into useful materials by machines that worked with mechanical precision. He was beginning to understand that the galaxy had changed forever, and there was no going back to the way things used to be. 6 months after the Determination's arrival at Harmony Point, the galaxy looked completely different. Ambassador Wu Jin sat in his new office aboard the human ship, reviewing alliance proposals that arrived daily from species across known space. The desk in front of him was covered with formal documents, trade agreements, and requests for technological cooperation. The most surprising visitor was General Juan of the Vorthic Empire. The crystalline warrior's body flickered with colors that Wu Jin had learned indicated deep embarrassment and desperate hope. Ambassador, Juan transmitted, his voice carrying harmonics of respect that would have been unthinkable 6 months ago. The Vorthic High Command wishes to propose a formal alliance between our peoples. Wu Jin set down his coffee and studied the alien general. That's quite a change from your initial position. 6 months ago, your empire considered humanity a minor species barely worthy of acknowledgement? Juan's crystalline form flashed with shame colors. We were wrong, catastrophically wrong. Our intelligence services failed to understand the true scope of human capabilities. We wish to correct this error before it becomes irreversible. The alliance proposal that Juan presented was remarkable. The Vorthic Empire, which had dominated the galaxy for 3,000 years through superior crystal technology, was offering to share their most advanced secrets in exchange for human cooperation. Our crystal-growing techniques, combined with your manufacturing capabilities, could create materials stronger than anything previously imagined, Juan explained. Vorthic crystal matrices integrated with human power systems could produce energy outputs beyond current theoretical limits. Wu Jin reviewed the technical specifications. The Vorthic were offering to teach humans how to grow their living crystals, technology they had never shared with any other species. In return, they wanted access to human manufacturing methods and defensive systems. What does your high command expect from this alliance? Wu Jin asked. Juan's body shifted to colors indicating complete honesty. Survival. Our military analysts calculate that fighting humanity would result in total defeat within months. Our only option is to join with you and hope to remain relevant in the new galactic order. The Kelani Consortium made a similar approach, though their proposal focused on economic cooperation rather than military alliance. Consortium leader Vel9 arrived with detailed plans for integrating human manufacturing with Kelani distribution networks. My people control the fastest transportation routes in the galaxy, Vel9 explained, his gaseous form swirling with nervous energy. We can move human goods across all known star systems faster than any other species. In return, we need access to human production methods to remain competitive. The proposal made economic sense. Humans could produce goods more efficiently than anyone else, but they lacked the established trade networks to distribute them across the galaxy. The Kelani had spent centuries building relationships with every major civilization, creating transportation routes that reached even the most remote systems. What about your traditional role as the galaxy's primary traders? Wu Jin asked. VL9's form contracted with resignation. Human ships are faster and carry more cargo than ours. Within a few years, you could replace our entire transportation network. We prefer to work with you rather than be replaced by you. The most interesting proposal came from the Nexari Collective. The hive-minded species approached the problem from a completely different angle, offering something that surprised even human scientists. Chief Science Officer Min Yung received the Nexari delegation in the Determination's main laboratory. The insect-like aliens moved in perfect synchronization, speaking with voices that represented billions of linked minds. The collective offers biological integration technology, the Nexari spokesperson announced. Human engineering combined with our biological adaptation methods could create ships that think, grow, and evolve. Min Yung studied the data they presented. The Nexari were proposing to merge their biological ship-growing techniques with human manufacturing methods. The result would be vessels that could adapt to new situations in real time, growing new weapons or defenses as needed. Your approach to technology is mechanical and fixed, the Nexari explained. Our approach is biological and adaptive. Together, we could create vessels that combine the best of both methods. The technical possibilities were fascinating. Ships that could repair themselves by growing new hull sections. Weapons that could evolve to counter new threats. Defensive systems that learned from each attack and became stronger. What does the collective want in return? Min Yung asked. Access to human manufacturing techniques and power generation methods. Our biological ships are limited by energy availability. Human fusion systems could power biological adaptations beyond our current capabilities. While the major galactic powers negotiated alliances, humanity continued expanding. The first Titan-class vessel, the HSS New Horizons, completed construction ahead of schedule. The massive ship dwarfed even the Determination, stretching over 3 kilometers from bow to stern. Captain Biora, now promoted to admiral, stood on the New Horizons bridge watching the final systems tests. The ship's capabilities exceeded even human expectations. Its manufacturing facilities could produce entire fleets of smaller vessels. Its research laboratories rivaled the best universities in human space. Its colonization systems could establish permanent settlements on any world within weeks. Admiral, reported her science officer, all systems are operating within normal parameters. We're ready for our first mission. The New Horizons assignment was ambitious even by human standards. The ship would travel beyond the galaxy's explored regions, establishing research stations in uncharted space and searching for new civilizations or phenomena. Set course for the Outer Rim, Admiral Biora ordered. Let's see what's out there. As the massive ship departed human space, observers throughout the galaxy watched with a mixture of awe and concern. The Titan-class vessels represented capabilities that no other species could match. They were mobile civilizations capable of crossing vast distances and establishing permanent human presence anywhere they chose to stop, back on Harmony Point. Now permanently hosting a human diplomatic mission, Ambassador Wu Jin was finalizing the first multi-species cooperation agreement in galactic history. The alliance included humans, Vorthok, Kelani, and Nexari working together on shared projects. The first joint venture would be a new type of space station combining technologies from all 4 species. Human manufacturing would provide the basic structure. Vorthok crystals would create advanced materials and energy systems. Kelani transportation. Networks would supply the construction materials. Nexari biological systems would provide adaptive life support. This station will represent something new in galactic civilization, Wu Jin explained to the assembled delegates. Not domination by one species, but cooperation between equals working toward common goals. General Wan's crystalline body glowed with cautious optimism. Our peoples have fought for millennia over resources and territory. Human technology makes such conflicts unnecessary. There are enough resources in the galaxy for everyone if we work together efficiently. The construction project began immediately. Human ships provided raw materials by processing asteroids into refined components. Vorthok crystal growers created structural elements stronger than any known substance. Kelani freighters delivered specialized equipment from across the galaxy. Nexari biological systems adapted to create perfect environmental conditions for all species involved. The result was unprecedented in galactic history. A space station that incorporated the best technologies from multiple civilizations, creating capabilities that none of them could achieve alone, but the most significant change was philosophical. The galaxy's species were learning to think like humans, approaching problems with the assumption that any challenge could be overcome with sufficient resources and cooperation. The Vorthok began designing new crystal structures optimized for human manufacturing methods. The Kelani developed transportation routes specifically for human trade goods. The Nexari started growing biological systems designed to interface with human technology. President Yunho addressed the Galactic Federation Council via holographic transmission from Earth. Behind her, construction yards showed dozens of new human ships in various stages of completion. Humanity's emergence has created opportunities for all of us, she announced. Our technology can solve problems that have limited galactic civilization for thousands of years. Resource scarcity, territorial conflicts, and technological stagnation can all be addressed through cooperation and shared innovation. The president's speech outlined humanity's long-term vision for the galaxy. Massive construction projects that would benefit all species. Exploration missions to map unknown regions of space. Research initiatives to solve fundamental questions about the universe. We invite all civilizations to join us in this work, President Yunho continued. The galaxy is vast and there is room for everyone to grow and prosper. The response was overwhelming. Species that had been enemies for centuries began discussing cooperation agreements. Trade wars ended as human manufacturing made resource conflicts unnecessary. Military buildup stopped as the futility of competing with human technology became obvious. Within a year of the determination's first appearance, the galaxy had experienced its first prolonged period of peace in recorded history. Not because of conquest or domination, but because humanity had made conflict inefficient and unnecessary. The new reality was simple. Any problem that could be solved through violence could be solved more effectively through technology and cooperation. Human ships could deliver aid to disaster zones faster than military fleets could deploy. Human manufacturing could produce resources more efficiently than armies could capture them. The galaxy was learning that the human approach to problems, build it better, make it bigger, prepare for everything, was more effective than traditional methods of competition and conflict. As the first joint space station neared completion, representatives from dozens of species worked side by side with human engineers. The project had become a symbol of what galactic civilization could achieve when species cooperated instead of competed. The age of human dominance had become the age of galactic cooperation, and the universe was becoming a very different place. 2 years after the HSS Determination first arrived at Harmony Point, the galaxy was unrecognizable. President Yunho stood on the bridge of humanity's newest achievement, the HSS New Galaxy, watching the final construction crews put finishing touches on the massive vessel that would serve as the mobile capital of the reformed Galactic Federation. The New Galaxy was humanity's largest creation yet, a city-sized ship that stretched over 10 kilometers from bow to stern. Its hull contained not just human technology, but integrated systems from dozens of allied species. Vorthic crystal matrices provided structural strength beyond anything previously imagined. Kelani transportation hubs allowed instant travel to any point in the galaxy. Nexari biological systems created perfect environmental conditions for hundreds of different species. President, reported Admiral Sora Kim, now serving as humanity's chief military coordinator, all systems are operational. Representatives from 47 different species are aboard and ready for the inaugural session of the new Federation Council. President Yunho nodded, looking out at the construction yard surrounding the massive ship. Human vessels worked alongside alien craft in perfect coordination, building projects that would have been impossible for any single species to complete. The sight still amazed her, even after 2 years of watching the galaxy transform. The old Galactic Federation had been replaced by something entirely new. Instead of a loose collection of competing species trying to maintain balance through military threat and economic pressure, the new Federation was built around cooperation and shared innovation. Human technology had made the old system obsolete. By solving the fundamental problems that had driven galactic conflict for millennia, resource scarcity was no longer an issue. Human manufacturing could process asteroids, dead planets, and space debris into any materials needed. A single human factory ship could produce enough refined metals to supply an entire star system for years. Territorial disputes had become meaningless. With human colonization ships capable of establishing permanent settlements anywhere in the galaxy, there was unlimited room for expansion. Species that had fought over habitable worlds for centuries now worked together to terraform new planets and build orbit habitats. The first major test of the new system had come when the Zephyrian Empire, a militaristic species from the galaxy's outer rim, attempted to invade Kelani space using traditional conquest methods. Their fleet of 200 warships represented the largest military force assembled in decades. The human response had been swift and decisive. 3 Colossus-Class ships arrived in the conflict zone within hours, their appearance immediately ending all hostilities. The Zephyrian commander, faced with technology that made his entire fleet obsolete, had requested a negotiation meeting rather than face certain destruction. Captain B.O. Ra, now commanding the human diplomatic fleet, had handled the situation with typical human efficiency. Instead of demanding surrender, she offered the Zephyrians partnership in a joint colonization project that would give them access to uninhabited worlds far more valuable than anything they could have conquered. Why fight for a few contested planets when we can help you establish colonies in previously unreachable star systems? She had asked the Zephyrian commander. The offer had been too good to refuse. Within months, Zephyrian military engineers were working alongside human colonization specialists to establish new settlements in the galaxy's unexplored regions. The former enemies became allies united by shared goals and mutual benefit. This pattern repeated itself across the galaxy. Species that had been preparing for war found themselves invited to join cooperative projects that offered far greater rewards than conquest ever could. Human technology made traditional warfare not just impractical, but completely unnecessary. Dr. Sung Ho, now serving as the Federation's chief technology coordinator, stood in the new galaxy's main research laboratory, reviewing the latest breakthrough achievements. The facility was a marvel of interspecies cooperation, with human scientists working alongside alien researchers to push the boundaries of what was possible. The new faster-than-light drive is ready for testing, reported his Nexari colleague, a being whose biological computing abilities complemented human engineering perfectly. Integration of human power systems with our adaptive biocircuits has exceeded all projections. The new drive technology represented everything the Reformed Federation stood for. Human engineering provided the basic power systems. Vorthec crystals created the dimensional manipulation fields. Kelani navigation expertise mapped the optimal travel routes. Nexari biological computers handled the complex calculations required for safe operation. The result was a propulsion system that could transport ships instantly between any 2 points in the galaxy without relying on traditional hyperspace routes or navigation beacons. Ships equipped with the new drives could reach previously unexplored regions of space in hours rather than years. How many species contributed to this project? Dr. Sungho asked. 17 different civilizations provided essential components or expertise, the Nexari scientist replied. No single species could have achieved this breakthrough alone. The new drive technology was being installed on the latest generation of human exploration vessels. These ships, designated as Infinity-Class, were designed for missions beyond the galaxy itself. They would search for other galaxies, other civilizations, and expand the Federation's knowledge beyond anything previously imagined. Ambassador Wu Jin, now serving as the Federation's chief diplomatic officer, was preparing for the most important meeting in galactic history. The new Federation Council would vote on humanity's proposal for the Great Expansion, a project that would establish permanent settlements throughout the known galaxy and begin exploration of neighboring galaxies. The proposal was ambitious even by human standards. Over the next century, the Federation would launch thousands of colony ships to establish settlements in every habitable system in the galaxy. Massive construction projects would build orbital habitats around uninhabitable worlds. Research stations would be established in previously unreachable regions of space. Are we ready for such rapid expansion? Asked General Huan, his crystalline body, now permanently displaying the friendship colors that indicated his complete trust in human leadership. The question is whether we can afford not to expand, Wu Jin replied. The galaxy contains resources and knowledge that could benefit all our species. The longer we wait, the longer we remain limited by our current understanding of the universe. The Federation Council meeting was held in the new galaxy's Great Assembly Hall, a vast chamber that could accommodate thousands of beings from dozens of different species. Representatives from civilizations across the galaxy gathered to hear humanity's vision for the future. President Yunho addressed the assembly with quiet confidence. Behind her, holographic displays showed the scope of the proposed expansion. New colonies spreading across the galaxy. Research stations exploring cosmic phenomena. Ships preparing to travel to other galaxies entirely. 2 years ago, our species lived in isolation, competing for limited resources and fighting over territory, she began. Today, we work together to solve problems that no single civilization could handle alone. Tomorrow, we will expand beyond this galaxy to explore the infinite possibilities of the universe. The presentation showed how the Great Expansion would benefit every species in the Federation. New worlds for colonization, access to resources beyond current imagination, knowledge that could revolutionize their understanding of science and technology. The universe is vast beyond comprehension, President Yunho continued. We have barely begun to explore what lies beyond our current borders. The Great Expansion will take us to places no one has ever seen, to discoveries that will transform our civilizations in ways we cannot yet imagine. The vote was unanimous. Every species in the Federation approved the Great Expansion project, committing their resources and expertise to humanity's vision of unlimited growth and exploration. As the meeting concluded, beings from dozens of different worlds worked together to plan the greatest undertaking in galactic history. Human engineering would provide the basic infrastructure. Alien expertise would contribute specialized knowledge and capabilities. Together, they would push the boundaries of what was possible. Admiral Biora stood on the observation deck of the new galaxy, watching the first Infinity-Class exploration ship prepare for its maiden voyage. The vessel would travel beyond the galaxy's edge, searching for other civilizations and mapping previously unknown regions of space. Where will it go first? Asked her Kelani navigation officer. The Andromeda Galaxy, Biora replied. Our long-range sensors have detected what might be artificial structures in that region. If there are other civilizations out there, we want to make contact. The concept of intergalactic contact represented the ultimate expression of humanity's approach to the universe. Instead of assuming threats or preparing for conflict, they approached the unknown with curiosity and hope for cooperation. As the Infinity-class ship departed on its historic mission, beings throughout the galaxy watched with excitement and anticipation. The vessel represented not just human technology, but the combined achievements of dozens of species working together toward common goals. The galaxy that had once barely acknowledged humans as a junior species now followed their lead toward a future of unlimited possibility. The Great Expansion was beginning, and no one could predict where it would lead. In her private quarters aboard the New Galaxy, President Yunho reviewed reports from colonies already being established throughout the galaxy. Human ships were terraforming barren worlds into garden planets. Alien expertise was creating orbital habitats that could support millions of beings. Research stations were making discoveries that revolutionized their understanding of physics and biology. The transformation was happening faster than anyone had expected. Species that had been enemies for millennia were now partners in projects that would have been impossible to imagine just a few years earlier. The galaxy was becoming something entirely new, guided by humanity's vision of cooperation and unlimited growth. A message arrived from the Infinity-class ship now approaching Andromeda Galaxy. Their sensors had detected signs of advanced civilization, possibly multiple species working together in ways similar to the reformed Federation. President Yunho smiled as she read the report. The universe was vast and full of possibilities, and humanity had shown the galaxy how to reach for all of them. The age of human emergence was becoming the age of galactic exploration, and the greatest adventures were still ahead. The galaxy had never recovered from that first look at the human Colossus-class ship, and now it was reaching toward the stars with unlimited ambition and hope. The future belonged to all of them, and it was going to be magnificent.